Welcome to the deep dive. It's kind of fascinating how you can take seemingly separate things like official government policy, mainstream news reports, and even online jokes and see how they actually weave together.
Absolutely. They can tell a surprisingly complete story about something huge, like a major city changing shape.
And it's not just about the official announcement, is it? It's about what people are really feeling on the ground.
Exactly. And that's our focus today. We're diving into Hanoi's really bold new low-emission zone initiative, the LEZ. This isn't just, tweaking a rule. It's a massive shift.
Right, impacting millions. So our mission here is to first really break down the specifics of this new policy. What does it actually say?
Then we'll look at how different media outlets framed it, because that framing matters.
And maybe the most interesting part, we're going to get into the world of public humor. The memes, the jokes, because they often give you that raw, unfiltered view of public feeling, right? The anxieties underneath.
Definitely. And our insights today, they come from a pretty unique mix. The official government directives themselves, quite a range of news reports, and a really interesting collection of online jokes and social media reactions straight from Hanoi.
So a really layered look. Okay, let's kick things off with the official source. This directive from the Prime Minister about Hanoi's LEZ. What is it exactly, and what's the core instruction?
Right. So on July 12th, 2025, the PM issued Chile 20CT TTG. Now, a Chilezi isn't just a suggestion, it's a pretty strong directive. Think of it as a clear instruction from higher up to lower down.
Okay.
And this one specifically tells Hanoi, you need to set up a low-emission zone. The main goal, slash emissions, significantly.
Slash emissions. Okay, so for the average person in Hanoi, what does that actually mean in terms of restrictions? What's the timeline look like? Because that's the bit that affects daily life.
It's definitely ambitious, and it's phased. Phase 1 hits really soon. July 1st, 2026, that's like just a year away. Yeah. And from that date, all petrol-powered motorbikes, the main way many people get around, will be banned within Van Dai 1, that's Zone 1, the very central core of the city.
All petrol motorbikes gone from the center in a year. Okay.
Right.
What's next?
Then, starting in 2028, they bring in restrictions on fossil fuel cars in Zones 1 and 2, so expanding outwards.
Right.
And by 2030, those same restrictions push out even further into Zone 3. It's a progressive tightening.
That is a tight schedule for such a huge change. What about the city? What does the directive say Hanoi itself has to do to make this feasible? It can't just be bans, right?
No, definitely not. The city has a lot on its plate. They have to publish a full, detailed LEZ plan by the third quarter of this year, 2025, so very soon.
Okay.
And beyond the plan, they have to actually implement crucial support systems. Things like subsidies to help people afford cleaner vehicles, building out a network of charging stations, which is a huge task, and also making it more expensive to keep using fossil fuel vehicles, probably through tougher fees, to kind of push people towards the transition.
Okay, so that's the official plan, laid out pretty clearly. But how did this news actually land? Let's shift to how the mainstream media reported it. Because, headlines shape perception. Did everyone tell the same story?
Not really. You saw quite a spectrum, actually. On one hand, you had major outlets, Viet Express, Toi Tre, Dun Tri, Lawang. They mostly took what we're calling the inevitable green shift angle.
Okay, inevitable green shift. What does that mean?
They framed it largely as a response to, quote, an air quality emergency. So, positioning the policy is difficult, yes, but ultimately unavoidable and necessary for the city's health and future.
Right, focusing on the environmental need. I remember seeing headlines like, Hanoi comes mi Zangdong Drong Van Dai 1 T726. Very direct. Hanoi bans petrol motorbikes in Zone 1 from July 2026. Just stating the fact.
Exactly. Very much focused on the what and the why from an environmental perspective. But then you had other outlets like 24 and Vietnam Net taking a different tack. They focused much more on what we're calling the practical worries. They really zoomed in on the immediate kind of gut reactions and concerns of ordinary commuters.
Okay. So what were those gut reactions? What specific worries popped up right away?
Well, the big ones were pretty predictable, but very real. The cost, how are people going to afford e-bikes or other alternatives? Infrastructure, is there actually going to be anywhere to charge these things reliably?
Yeah, the charging question is huge.
Absolutely. And just, the potential for chaos during rush hour as everyone tries to figure out new routines. We even saw these really poignant quotes from commuters popping up in articles.
Like what?
Like this one. "Nam no toy, ilam bang ji." Simple, direct. It just means only 1 year left. How will I get to work? It really captures that immediate practical anxiety.
Yeah, that hits home. It brings the policy down to the individual level.
Mm.
So that leads us to another media approach you mentioned, the public voice amplification angle. Tell me about that.
Right, this was really interesting. Dun Viet, especially their Bendok Noiji section, which means what readers say. They did a great job here.
Yeah.
They essentially compiled these extensive roundups of comments from places like Facebook groups, drivers' forums, where people were actually talking amongst themselves.
So tapping into the real conversations.
Exactly. And what was great is that they showed the whole spectrum. You had people strongly supporting the green goals, saying it's about time, but you also heard loud and clear from those expressing real fear, especially like gig workers, delivery drivers, ride-hail drivers whose livelihoods depend entirely on their motorbikes.
That gives you a much richer picture than just the official line or the worries. Okay, and then there's always the critical angle. What did outlets like RFA Vietnamese make of it?
Yeah, RFA Vietnamese took a distinctly more critical stance. They went so far as to characterize the directive as Lam Quan, which basically translates to an abuse of power.
Strong words.
Very. And they specifically amplified skepticism they saw on Facebook. They even included screenshots of posts that were accusing the whole decree of being designed to, quote, "Dun Joe VinFast," essentially paving the way for VinFast.
Suggesting a kind of corporate favoritism.
Precisely. Suggesting the policy wasn't just about clean air, but maybe also about benefiting a specific major local company, VinFast, which produces electric vehicles. And just to be clear, we're reporting what the source, RFA, highlighted from public comments reflecting that critical viewpoint exists.
Right, important distinction. Okay, so we've got the official directive, the media framing the good, the bad, the worried. But now let's get into what, for me, is often the most revealing part. The public humor. The memes, the jokes. Why are these so important for understanding what's really going on?
Oh, they're absolutely crucial. Because humor, especially the kind that spreads online like wildfire, it's like this unfiltered window into what people are actually thinking and feeling. It bypasses the official narratives, it bypasses the careful phrasing of news reports.
It's like a social pressure valve releasing.
Exactly. It acts as a social pressure gauge. It reveals those anxieties, the frustrations, the skepticism that people might not say out loud in a formal setting, or even to a pollster. It's raw, it's collective, and it's often a way of coping, too.
Okay, let's get specific then. Give me some examples. I remember you mentioned one about leaders and their cars.
Ah, yes, that one took off. The meme essentially went, Landau, the bought Lexus trick, which means leaders should try ditching their Lexus first.
Huh. Before asking citizens to ditch their cheap motorbikes, like the Honda Wave.
Precisely. The full punchline you saw, particularly in a TikTok thread, was something like, if you're calling for a petrol vehicle ban, leaders should set an example and ditch their petrol cars first.
So it's not just funny, it's pointing a finger.
Absolutely. It's a clear signal of public distrust. People are questioning the fairness of the policy, questioning if the leadership is really sharing the burden. It's calling out perceived hypocrisy wrapped in a joke.
Powerful stuff.
Yeah.
Okay, what about the double ban paradox? That sounds complicated.
It really highlights a practical nightmare. This joke went viral. Chin fu kum shay dik. Some say tek toy bay vào zone 1 check.
Let me guess. Government bans petrol cars. My landlord bans charging electric bikes in the boarding house.
You got it.
Yeah.
So am I supposed to fly into zone 1? It was huge on TikTok, got hundreds of likes. It perfectly captures these really practical infrastructure gaps.
Like, where do you charge your e-bike if you live in a crowded boarding house where the landlord's worried about safety or the wiring?
Exactly. Or even broader worries about whether the power grid can even handle everyone charging electric vehicles. It spotlights those unforeseen knock-on effects of the policy that maybe weren't fully thought through or at least communicated.
Okay, and connecting back to that RFA report, the VinFast hidden boss idea.
Yeah.
How did that surface in the humor?
It was quite direct, actually. People would share news about the ban and tag each other, often using those stickers you see online, maybe one of VinFast's chairman looking pleased, rubbing his hands together.
Oh, visually making the point.
Right, and the caption would often be something like, Izadien kung moi VinFast down ha, meaning, even if I have to go electric, I'm still not buying VinFast.
So pushing back against that perceived corporate influence.
Yes. It shows this deep-seated skepticism about whether the policy is truly neutral or if it's tilted towards one specific powerful local player. It reflects public awareness, or at least suspicion, about the economic forces potentially at play.
It's amazing how much gets packed into a simple meme. So it's not all critique, though. Sometimes it's just coping, like the joke about Zone 1 becoming a pedestrian zone.
Exactly. That was another common theme. We saw posts, for instance, with a gif of people looking like they're on a long trek, maybe carrying backpacks, but superimposed onto a familiar Hanoi street like Hang Bai.
Okay.
And the caption would be like, Chunbi Leo Dark Zone 1 2026. Get ready to hike up the Zone 1 hill in 2026.
Finding the funny side of having to potentially walk a lot more.
Precisely. It's classic humor as a coping mechanism. It diffuses some of the tension and fear about, longer commutes, higher costs, maybe just the sheer inconvenience, and it creates a shared experience. We're all going to be hiking Zone 1 together. Lao-Ong actually collected snapshots of these kinds of Facebook statuses.
And even professional comedians jumped in.
Yeah, Thian28 Entertainment, which is a popular online channel, they put out a comedy reel. You had a comedian basically turning the decree into a stand-up routine, doing a mock countdown.
Oh, yeah.
3, 2, Foi 1, Thoid Bu, which means 3, 2, 1. Okay, time to push the bike walk.
Again, making light of the inevitable walk.
Exactly. Same function, it's a shared coping strategy, making the tough news a bit more palatable through laughter. You saw it on their TikTok.
And amidst all this humor and discussion, were there common hashtags people were using?
Oh yeah, definitely. You saw clusters forming around things like hashtag Kamiksang, which is ban petrol vehicles.
Makes sense.
Hashtag Zone Hanoi, obviously targeting the location. Hashtag Zienthoy, meaning electric vehicles only or just electric vehicle.
Capturing the transition.
Right. And then the more skeptical ones, like hashtag Vinfast Hekong, Vinfast or not, questioning that corporate angle again. And even the coping humor one, hashtag Ibuchok, walk for health.
Walk for health. Love it. It really does summarize the whole conversation, doesn't it? Okay, this has been super insightful, so let's try and pull it all together. What are the big takeaways from looking at all this public humor? What does it tell us that maybe the official statements or even news reports miss?
Well, I think the biggest thing is that this humor acts like a really sensitive early warning system for policymakers. It's not just people blowing off steam.
How so?
Those jokes about the leader's Lexus cars or the whole VinFast plot armor thing, they're not subtle. They are flashing red lights signaling public distrust about fairness, about potential corporate cronyism. That's crucial feedback officials might not get from formal consultations until resentment has really built up.
And those paradox memes by the double bans, they point to very specific real-world problems.
Exactly. They're not just funny anecdotes. They highlight concrete infrastructure anxieties. Is there going to be charging available in dense housing? Can the grid handle it? These jokes pinpoint practical gaps that could completely undermine the policy's success, no matter how good the environmental intentions are. They show where the plan meets messy reality.
So humor is doing more than just making people laugh. It sounds like it's actually helping people process this massive change and maybe even connect over it.
Absolutely. I mean, think about it. Millions of commuters in Hanoi are facing a really significant disruption to their daily lives. Turning that shared fear about walking more, about costs, about inconvenience into punchlines helps ease the tension, for sure.
Right.
But it also does something else. It sparks conversations. It encourages people to share tips, information, frustrations, and solutions amongst themselves. It builds this kind of peer-to-peer support network and a sense of collective experience. We're all in this together.
So thinking about the officials trying to implement this, what's the big lesson here from tracking these meme trends and jokes?
The key lesson, I think, is that they need to listen to this informal channel. Monitoring meme trends, paying attention to the recurring jokes, it's not trivial. It's actually a powerful way to spot the friction points early.
Before things blow up.
Exactly. Is the subsidy design flawed?
Yeah.
Are people worried about how government vehicles will transition? Are certain neighborhoods being left behind on charging infrastructure? The humor can flag these issues when they're still, maybe, fixable before public frustration hardens into real anger or organized resistance. It's an incredibly valuable, if unconventional, public feedback loop.
You know, this whole deep dive has really driven home how these different pieces, the official policy, the media coverage, and crucially, that everyday public humor, they really do combine to give you such a richer, more complete understanding.
Yeah, it's not just one or the other. You need all of them to see the full picture.
We've seen the government's plan, how the news reported it, but then the memes and jokes gave us that invaluable insight into the real public sentiment, the practical hurdles, the anxieties, the coping mechanisms.
It really underscores the idea, doesn't it, that sometimes the most revealing insights don't come neatly packaged in formal reports. They bubble up from these seemingly lighthearted informal spaces, the jokes, the online chatter. That's where you can often find the real pulse of public opinion.
So it leaves us with a thought to chew on, maybe. What other kinds of, seemingly informal expressions, humor, memes, maybe even local art or music might be revealing profound things about complex issues right there in your own community?
And how can we, collectively, get better at really listening to those signals, to understand not just the policies, but the heart of public sentiment around them?